quarantine dream. This is kinda extreme. Wanna take one for the team, but I'm not sure what team. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the inaugural episode of the Corona Connections Worldwide podcast. I am your host, Angela Callender, and I will open with an apology since it's been brought to my attention that Corona Connections Worldwide sounds kind of sexy or at least romantic, and so far it hasn't been, but stay tuned. I never know what the future holds. Background is simply that I have managed to collect a number of friends in a number of countries over the years, and I got to thinking early in my quarantine days, or about midway through my quarantine days, that it could be interesting to know how their lives are being affected by this global pandemic. So here is my podcast where I catch up with them and learn about those experiences. My first guest is a former boss of mine from when I was doing wedding videography in Charlottesville, Virginia, about 8 years ago. He's been living in El Salvador for the past 3 years, and I thought he would make a good first guest because, first of all, early in the pandemic, he had been sharing information with me about what his experience was like, and in fact, we dissect a voice memo he sent me on WhatsApp to see how opinions might have changed. And also, he runs his own podcast, so I thought that he would be able to give me some pointers for that, which he did. He suggested that I use the Podbean hosting site, which I am doing. And also, I want to be sure to drop a plug for his Tennis Heads podcast. That's Tennis Heads with a Z, and don't get all Starbucks on it. It is a Z in place of the S at the end. I don't want any of you out there searching Tennis Heads. And as long as we're doing plugs, I might as well mention that at the end of the episode, when I try to do a couple plugs, I only plug my personal Instagram accounts, but in the time since this was recorded, which was a little over a month ago, we recorded this on September 17th, I have gone ahead and done social media stuff for this podcast, so give us a follow at Corona Connects Pod on most of the platforms, but on Twitter, it's just Rona Connects Pod because I just had a whole headache of a time trying to set up a Twitter. Oh, I also wanted to include that I am using the opportunity to use some of my own photography for my Zoom backgrounds, and the one right now is at the corner of Burgundy and Dumaine Streets in the French Quarter outside the Hotel Saint-Pierre. I will be hosting the episodes on YouTube as well as a way of including maps and all of that. But there are some visual jokes that get made a little later in the episode concerning my background. So I thought I would drop that little bit of information. All right. Well, anyway, without further ado, enjoy. Let me introduce you, Kirby Martin, my first guest on my new podcast. Kirby is my former boss and current friend and mentor.
Which is amazing in and of itself.
No, honestly, like such a mentor to me. I learned so much and still really employ a lot of what I learned as your wedding videography assistant, which I began doing back in December 2012, which feels like a very long time ago at this point.
Okay. Seems about right.
And now you are in El Salvador teaching, amongst other things, surfing, although maybe not surfing under quarantine.
We weren't allowed to surf for 77 days, but we are now. I actually got beat up in the water yesterday by three guys.
Actually beat up. I was thinking I got pummeled by a wave or something.
I mean, that's every surf session. I get pummeled by waves. But I got punched in the face by a guy much larger than I was, who only punched me in the face when there were two other guys around. Like they surrounded me.
What was the reason?
It's a long story. It's the guy who punched me robbed my wave, and he wouldn't leave the wave. If you drop in on somebody, then you're supposed to just kick out. The guy says, "Hey," and he's like, "Ooh, okay, sorry," and then you just leave the wave. He never left the wave, and I lit him up. all these guys from San Salvador are very aggressive. They think they own the wave. So I said, you need to go back to San Salvador, learn how to surf, blah, blah, blah. I was mad. I mean, he took my wave. There's rules out here. We have rules.
I trust you.
And so, and then he was like, Benis, which means come here. And he caught up to me, grabbed my leash, hit me in the shoulder with this board. His buddy converged, didn't say anything real. And they were close to me. I took a wave. I dropped in on a local. He said, hey. I immediately kicked out, which I shouldn't have done. And then they were all surrounding me. They started grabbing on me, grabbing my board. And then the guy, boom, right in my face, right there. And then I was like, God, I'm like, maybe one of these guys, I don't know. Like maybe I could like jab the big guy. He's much bigger than me anyway. Like maybe, but 3 guys? It's like I'll die.
Yeah.
So I tried to take a wave. They grabbed my leash. I got a little bit of separation. Then another wave came. I took the white water all the way to the beach. So it's to be continued. Yeah. Surf my way to life.
Wow. So
yeah, it's a dramatic story. It's the most dramatic thing I've ever heard of happening in the water, and it happened to me yesterday.
Oh my gosh. So that's not your ordinary surf experience. It's not just like the mean waves.
Oh no, it's super chill. It's like, yay, we're surfing, and how are you? And good waves, and awesome.
And then the city
and oh my God, I like your
in.
board. Yeah, the city guys ruined it all. So anyway, it's to be continued. The advice from all the locals so far has been go to the police, which will probably happen. There's a specific law against violence in the water here because they want the tourism. This isn't probably very good advertisement for the tourism, but
well, you're trying to keep
happened.
It to yourself. You know what it's like when outsiders come in now.
Yeah, but it happened.
Okay.
Okay.
Where exactly are you?
I have no idea. I am in Playa El Sunzal in La Libertad, El Salvador.
Okay, and geographically, where is that? Like, where are you? Like on the?
No idea.
But you're on the.
I just land. Somebody picks me up.
This is how my geography is. Are you on the Gulf or are you in the Pacific?
Oh no, you didn't.
Like the Caribbean or the Pacific. I should have really looked at a map before.
No.
Now I've learned a really valuable podcasting lesson. Look at a map first. But the thing is,
and then 4 minutes in, the wheels came off.
But see, here's where you get to tell me.
Okay, yeah.
We all get to learn a lesson.
So El Salvador has one coast. It's on the Pacific, and it's a south-facing beach. So the beach runs east to west. So when you're looking out at the water, you're looking south.
Got it. Okay, great. Good information. And what is your, you've been going to...
Yeah, so I'm on the Pacific side.
Yeah, and you've been going to El Salvador as long as I've known you. How did that become your spot? What is your history with El Salvador?
So a buddy of mine about 8 years ago suggested I come take photos of the surfers. A buddy from Virginia, and I literally considered it for a couple of seconds, and I thought to myself, I'm doing that. But it was more to learn how to surf than to take photos of the surfers, although I did both.
Had you really surfed before that?
I had tried for a month in Costa Rica 10 years before that.
Okay.
But that was the first time I was really in a position to go back and try it again. Came down here for a couple months in the winter and still couldn't surf. And then came back the next year for 3 months in the winter. And then I learned I could finally catch waves on my own after a month and a half. And then, just gets better, except for when you get beat up.
Well, so if that was around 8 years ago, I guess you would have been it would have been in the first year or so of you starting to go there when I met you. I didn't, okay, well, that's cool.
Oh. Okay. I don't remember years or anything, so that's news to me. We know each other for 8 years, is that right?
Yeah, nearly in December. I know.
What? Yeah. How do you know these things?
Well, because I move around every couple of years, so I had just moved back from Thailand at that point, and was job hunting and found 2 jobs in Charlottesville, and one was with you. And yeah, so I just remember that's like a benchmark in my brain.
Oh, okay.
December 2012.
Benchmarks don't work with me. After I moved to Charlottesville, I had been there for who knows how long, and I had to text my ex-girlfriend in New York, and I'm like, when did I move to Virginia? She's like, September of 2003. I'm like, okay, thank you.
Well, I always make the joke that my last name is Calendar. So
it's true. I didn't
remember those things.
I didn't remember that.
Well, a lot of people don't know how to pronounce it that way anyway. I get a lot of colander and colander, understandably.
Oleander, lavender.
Well, funnily enough, somebody just yesterday or the day before tried to email me, but reversed the O and the A in my last name, so it was like Angela Colander. And I don't know if you knew it, but dots and Gmail addresses don't matter. So it asked him if he meant Angela C. Olander, and he was like, I guess. And so, like, it was this invite to some shared media thing, and so he invited some random, like, Angela C. Olander. And I, like, wonder about her. Like, who is she?
Yeah, who is she? I wonder about her, too.
Yeah, all the people with names sort of like ours.
When I was in college, this totally dates me, but there was, like, a CD with like names of people from around the country on it. I went to the library, and I was like, I wonder if there's another Kirby Martin, right? Mm-hmm. And this is 1993, and I'm like, I wonder. It was like the first access that we had to like information like that, and I was very heartbroken to find out there were 26 other Kirby Martins. And I was like, no, I was the only one.
I found other Angela calendars on Facebook, but a lot of them seem like bots to me. So I hope they.
Oh, wow.
I hope they are. But
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you've been in and out of El Salvador for the past 8 years, but you live there now, right? Like that's where your basically primary residence. And how long?
Yeah, I moved here 3.5 years ago. And I've only come back for an extended period 2 years ago to knock on doors for a Democratic House of Representatives candidate in southwestern Ohio.
Right. Okay. I remember seeing that on Instagram.
Yeah. Aftab Pureval.
Yeah. Go ahead and drop his name.
Yeah.
Right. And you've been teaching since you've been there. Are you still doing filmmaking stuff?
No. I did last year. I filmed a couple weddings, but I did the math, and I'm like, well, I'm earning exactly the same thing hourly here teaching than like getting on a plane and going, and like now with COVID, like I'm not going back.
Well, even just like personal projects, like are you making surf vids or anything?
Well, it's third world. So if I did anything like that, which I'm not, it would be like a hobby because there's no money here.
Yeah.
Like, even the surfers are like here on the cheap.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not trying to like pay like first world prices for anything.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's not feasible.
Got it. Yeah, and that kind of, I was going to ask that you sort of describe the average day or week if you have like, a weekend routine that's different, like pre-COVID, like what was stuff like for you, like your teaching schedule, surfing schedule, friends, social activities, living situation, that kind of thing.
I'm still looking to make some friends, but it's a joke.
I don't know. How do you react to that? It's like sure, I get it. It's hard to
could be, maybe.
So you seem really friendly. Like
I've been living here for 3.5 years. Yes, I have friends.
Maybe you'd move to a new little spot or something.
Yeah. No.
So yeah, I got like, oh wow, you really should have some friends right now.
Yeah, you should. Yeah. Yeah, you should express some kind of surprise at that. So yeah. Before, honestly, things for me personally haven't changed that much. So before, get up at 4 a.m, teach from 4:30 to 9:30 in the morning, go surf, come back, shower, eat, take a 2-hour nap, wake up, drink cold brew coffee, like try to like remember where I am, like I'm super zombie, and then do whatever, maybe watch a soccer game or just go out on my porch. I can see the ocean from my porch, so I'd sit out there and just like look, that's my TV. I do that like sometimes for all day. I'll just sit there and watch the ocean.
Not even any
And then
advertisements,
yeah,
unless there's the little planes that fly by with a little banner.
no, there's they can't afford airplanes here. That's a lie, but there's not that many.
Right.
But yeah, and then teach in the evening from like 5:30 to 9:30. Get 5 hours of sleep and do it all again. And then on weekends, it's more like, well, okay, so the weekends have definitely changed because it was like I wouldn't really go out on Friday nights, but Saturday nights I would go to. There's a surf town that's 2 kilometers from here, and it pops on the weekends. Like a bunch of people from the city come down, and there's like a club or two, and then there's like
Yeah,
different
like
spots
what?
with
Right.
live music.
Like, you're just in a small surf town? Like, how far are you from San Salvador? Like,
I'm 40-minute drive with no traffic from San Salvador.
And when you say the city, that's what
Sometimes,
you mean, or are there like other
yeah,
cities
the city,
around?
the capital, San Salvador, it's all the same thing. Yeah,
Right.
I get my groceries it's about 7 miles away, maybe. Is the nearest grocery store. Um, but the surf party town is 2 kilometers from here, and yeah, I go there and just whatever, see live music, dance, talk to like just roll around town and talk to people that I know, um, and that doesn't. Well, so we're not into COVID yet, right? This is pre-COVID, so yeah, and then Sunday surf and just chill, watch soccer, maybe have somebody over or whatever. Occasionally go play tennis in like near the city, um, and yeah, that was my usual thing pre-COVID.
And within your town, are there many restaurants and bars or that kind of thing to speak of, or that mostly you'd have to go outside a little bit for that sort of?
Yeah, in the town that's near me, the surf town, it's called El Tunco. There's lots of restaurants and bars and stuff. Uh,
So you're even a little bit outside
and
of a
yeah,
proper town, like you're kind of isolated.
yeah, I'm just like in a little. There's just like a few houses here where I am. It's like a little neighborhood,
Nice.
um, and very few permanent residents. Like I think my neighbors right here, Doña Rosa. She and her husband and their daughter are the only. No, that's not true. There's a couple more people down here, but it's like
Who are permanent
year-round
residents?
population. Yeah, year-round population here, like permanent residents, is like, less than 10
Okay.
in just in this little like, neighborhood.
And so where is it mostly other Americans who are around as far as like the people who are in and out, or like who else is there?
Yeah, it runs the gamut. A lot of people from Brazil, some people from Argentina, some people from Japan. You get a fair number of Scandinavians here. There's a lot of Canadians, a lot of people from BC, Americans, other people from Europe, France, Germany, a lot of Germans, England. Yeah, so it's pretty cosmopolitan in that way. It's
Yeah.
like kind of a nice place to be because I've had like so many conversations with so many people from so many different places, and I've learned so much just by being here of all places. Like
Yeah.
it's way more cosmopolitan in that regard than my life was in Charlottesville.
Yeah. And it's the surf for the most part that's drawing people there, or is it just kind of like known as this beach paradise? Is there
Yeah,
diving or anything like that?
so for tourists, it's mostly surf, but then there's also backpackers, or there were backpackers.
Right.
So they roll through. It's kind of like I feel like for most of them, it's like a stamp on the passport. They stay for like 2 or 3 days. Yeah. they stay for like 2 or 3 days, and then it's like, and then they're like, well, okay, there's like not that much to do for them unless they're like, here on a weekend and they like to party. I always kind of they kind of seem like fish out of water to me here sometimes, because I'm like, so you don't surf, so I don't know, like, you could talk to people.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, sure. And then, okay, I have the clip that you sent me on March 31st was the date. And I can play it, your like summary of like the early quarantine period. Okay, I'm gonna
Okay, wow, this will be great.
Still in El Salvador, the president here is awesome. He's 37. And before there was one case, he shut the borders down. Then when there was one case, he closed the airport. And then when there were 3 cases 10 days ago, he had this hour-long presentation on TV where he showed like the graphs and charts of like Spain and Italy, and said, this is their trajectory, and explained all this stuff. And he's like, everybody's on 30-day home quarantine. He's like, one person from each house can go get food, but that's it. And then if the police catch you out not getting food, then you automatically go to a detention center for 30 days. And within the first 24 hours, like 200, he sent out this tweet saying like 269 people could have spent the next 30 days at home with their families. Instead, they're spending it in a detention center with strangers. So he's been like super awesome. Like, I feel so lucky to be in a place where somebody's like on it and understands and is like, taking the appropriate measures. And the next day, I saw some blowback on Twitter. Like, apparently, like, some people in the Congress here were like trying to lift the quarantine, and he's like, dude, look at this. And he sent this posted this video from Spain of people in the hallway lying on the floor in the hospital. Like, there are not enough beds, and these motherfuckers are like dying on the fucking hospital floor. And he's like, this is the first world. It's like, look at this. This is Spain. It's like, what do you think would happen here if this were us? So he's like, it's so great. It's like, I love telling people in the States about this because, there's a little bit of contrast. So yeah, I'm just chilling. We're not allowed to surf either, which I'm okay with. Yeah, teaching online and just, riding it out. I think it's going to be more than 30 days, but we'll see. Yeah, and I know New Orleans got it bad. So how is it going up there?
So, I saw you instantly do the thumbs down to thinking that the president made the right choice, which just for the record, my response was in agreement in saying that I wish that we had better leadership here, and that I thought it was interesting that that the situation have people like you who are not like super like pro authority, like pro police, like pro like shut down or anything, but it seemed like the prudent choice, and it seemed like with this unknown thing that's coming for us, we gotta take strong actions. And I that was what I understood from that.
Yeah, and I still feel that way. And what he did initially was exactly the right thing to do. Yeah, my opinion on that is unchanged. But it got complicated because, so the president of El Salvador is 37 or 38 years old. His name is Nayib Bukele. And I know a couple people who know him. And he was a club owner, and then he ran for mayor of San Salvador and got it, and apparently did some good things, and then ran away with the last election. They're presidents for 5 years, and he was elected like a year ago. So I think it started off very, very well. However, he's definitely lying about the number of deaths. And I've heard this from a myriad of sources. There's way more deaths here than are being reported. Apparently, what is happening in the hospitals is when somebody dies from, COVID-related stuff, the doctors are writing down like rare pneumonia. So it's not counted as a COVID death.
I heard a similar criticism made of Mexico today, like the exact thing.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then, so who knows what I used to read the numbers every day. And then once I started hearing that, I was like, like these numbers are totally, they're lies. So I'm not going to pay attention to them anymore. So I don't know what's going on here. I have no idea. I know it's bad. I know I've seen videos of morgues and of hospitals that my friends have taken in the city. And it looks pretty bad. It's hard to tell from a video exactly, but it gives you some kind of idea. And then he kept on extending the quarantine, and the Congress was fighting him. And eventually, it seemed like the Congress was right in trying to end it. I mean, this is a third world country, and the economy here is horrible. It's always been horrible. And people struggle here. I mean, people in the Capitol were holding white flags out of their windows, which means I'm starving.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and I remember not long, and there wasn't like a relevant clip to play, but not long after that, you had given me another update, which was that riots and, that sort of act of desperation were predicted when you put a third world country through these type of shutdowns and quarantines. And you had a friend who was trying to get you out and get you to come to LA, I think.
Yeah, I think in hindsight, that was kind of alarmist. That hasn't happened. We haven't had any kind of, violence. The government did help out families with $300. The average wage here is $10 a day, $9 or $10 a day. So $300 for a family was pretty significant. But a friend of mine sent me a very long text, which had names of laws in it. It was extremely detailed. A lot of it was over my head, but she was basically explaining how the president was using this emergency declaration. So there's apparently in the bylaws of El Salvador, there's apparently some kind of law that says during an emergency, when this particular law is in effect, the government can spend money without telling people where it's spending the money. And according to her, he has been siphoning money into ghost corporations under that law during quarantine. And apparently this is why he wanted to keep extending it and extending it and extending it. Another friend of mine from the States, I was talking to him about it, and he's basically like, yeah, people like power. People like to tell other people what to do. And so I think he kind of he liked the control.
Yeah.
Interesting to note, I've also heard that he wasn't even here during the quarantine. He was in Miami, and he's got a great PR team, like filmmakers, and they set up a room to make it look like the room in the presidential palace here. Yes.
Wait, is this substantiated, for sure, or
No.
it's a well accepted rumor?
No, this is one person told me this.
But you find it believable. I mean, I do.
But there's other things that kind of prove it. Apparently, his wife has kicked him out of the house, and so he's on the outs with the wife, and then apparently, what's definitely true is he's got this brilliant filmmaking team, and they make everything look like, he's doing so great. So it's possible that he wasn't even here for the quarantine, or that he's still not here. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But basically, bad news all around. This happens to every single president in El Salvador. They rob the country, and then the next person comes up and says, I'm going to not rob the country, and they rob the country.
These traditions, man, time honored.
Yeah, of course, this is true for every country.
Right. Very true. Yeah, and like, funnily enough, like our president who likes power so much, it seems like this could have been an easy way for him to use lots of power, and instead he was just like, no, it's not real.
Right.
Only to come around, and now he's doing the whole, well, I did know, but didn't want to cause a panic. I'm Winston Churchill. Yeah, it's a lot.
I don't pay attention to what he says or does anymore. I'm done with him.
Yeah.
He's just such, he's a devil, and I don't care what he does. I don't care what he says. I'm never reading anything about what he says. It doesn't matter. We need to put another person in power.
Yes.
End of story.
End of story. It seems so obvious to me, but I've learned that it's really hard to convince people who
There's no convincing.
Yeah.
No convincing.
I've a number of times with a couple of different people, like, really thought that there was an argument to be made, and if only I just provided this rational.
Me too.
Some facts.
I was there too. Yeah.
Facts, a little fact here or there, but no,
Yeah.
they don't want it.
Yeah.
Even a fact is just a product of the liberal media, and can you trust it? And it's like it's from NASA. Like, but yeah, so when did you said there was no surfing for 77 days, so it was just over like a 2.5 months more or less that you were on quarantine?
Yeah, I think it was maybe closer to 3 months, but whatever. Yeah, yeah, and then everything's still not open here. They said, okay, the construction sector is open, so ferreterias, the hardware stores, were open, and then now just in the past couple of weeks, restaurants have opened, but I won't go in there because none of the customers are wearing masks. It's like,
is it technically a law and they're just not doing it, or there's not a law?
There's not a law. There's no, that you get texts on your phone saying, hey, you can save your life if you wear a mask. But, you know, I mean, I went to the beach town here the other night, Sunday night, for the first time. I was there at night for the first time on Sunday, and only half the people were wearing masks. And I was like, this is a death wish. Like, what? Like, it's as if people hadn't heard that there's a pandemic.
I know. I'm Uber driving now, and for the most, like, I hadn't because I was on unemployment through July, and then when they cut it, I was like, I was ready to be doing something again anyway, and I was worried about having to enforce it. And people are mostly good because we got hit so hard at first, and people learned basically, and just it became part of the routine. It's like, it's cute. Somebody will come out the house and like see me with mine and go like, oh, and like run back in the house, and like even little kids like pull them out of their pockets and stuff. But like randomly today, I had people that were bad, like I don't know if people are just getting tired or if I'm just picking up like less, like, I don't know, courteous people or whatever. But like I heard some girl just like blatantly eating behind me today, and I'm like, I know you don't have a mask on if you're eating, like, and just.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the dynamics are there, but I would be tempted just to, like, when they get in the car saying, okay, mask at all times. If for any reason you want to take your mask off, you have to get out.
Yeah, just because I have little signs that I like stuck on the car, and like if somebody doesn't have a mask on, I tell them too. Like, I think it's pretty clear that this is something that I am enforcing and that I care about, and so to like notice that they've like pulled it down, and it wears on you to have to be that guy, which I knew was going to be the case. And then I always
the guy who's alive?
It really wears on you to be the guy who's alive, man. It's hard to be the survivors. Yeah, but it's been, of course, a really interesting thing to do as well. Like, I get so many, like, it's been interesting. I had two Tulane students who'd been quarantined at a hotel because their friend had tested positive, even though they never tested they only tested negative, but they still had to be quarantined for 14 days at a hotel, and we're finally getting out. And the people who test positive go to the quarantine dorm, which is basically like a jail, and they have to eat the cafeteria food. But the people who tested negative and went to the hotel, they get like real food delivered to them and stuff. It's like a whole whole thing. So I like get in on all the
Wow.
goss. I get the goss. So to get back to El Salvador, was it pressure from Congress, pressure from people? Why did the president eventually
Yeah, the
this
Congress
power?
basically just, I think it's so hard for me to get information here
Yeah.
because I'm good at speaking Spanish, but I'm bad at understanding it, and the just the information flow here it's not first world.
You don't have like a political guru, like your buddy who updates you on that.
I don't. I'm always the last person to know everything here.
Yeah.
So I think the Congress basically overrode him at the end. That's my understanding of it.
Right. And then is there any and I don't know the rules here either. Like there is some rule in place, like when this happens, we'll move to the rest of Louisiana just moved to phase 3, which means restaurants can have, I think, 50% capacity as opposed to 25, but not New Orleans because they're just like keeping our rules stricter. And so it's been this constant like moving, and I don't know what any of the metrics are or why they decide to change at any given point, but
well, it looks like everybody's taking it seriously. It looks like everybody's inside. I haven't even seen anybody like walking down the sidewalk or any cars pass by you.
Yeah. Well, I had the city block off the block.
Oh, wow. You got a lot of pull for having only lived there for a little while.
Yeah.
Pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's also the clouds haven't even moved. That's the craziest part.
You told the clouds to freeze?
You. Old man yells at cloud. Oh, I've always wanted to. I'll have to take the still frame. But yeah, so like, what is there like? Do you have any idea what the future looks like there?
There's
or
like a phases.
Like who's allowed in?
No one's allowed in right now, but they're apparently reopening the airport in like a couple weeks, maybe. It's so weird here. It's like there's one thing that's true of this culture is there's no planning. There's no planning for anything. It's like that. Hey, let's do this tomorrow. Okay. What time? Tomorrow. Okay. Well, what's the exact hour that you want to do it? Tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then
here it resonates.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. New Orleans, there's no, yeah, like things will happen. Things will happen when they happen. Yeah, it's the beginning.
Yeah. I didn't. That makes sense. I've only spent a couple of days in New Orleans, but that totally makes sense. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when especially the whole world is like this now with the virus, it's like people make plans, but they always change. So apparently there's like a phasing system where more and more stuff opens over time. And I read some things about that, but everything is in flux. Everything always changes here anyway. So I'm just waiting for people to tell me what's happening.
And do you know what like the $300 that you mentioned, that was per week or month no,
that was a one shot deal.
That was, and has there been any other economic assistance that you know of?
Not that I'm aware of. Although I should include this. My neighbors so I have this couple who, one of them is from Holland and one of them is from Germany, and they're actually back in Europe right now, but apparently they're coming back soon, maybe. They teach at the German school in the capital. They told me that this is during the quarantine, they said, we're getting some bags of food together for people near here who need it, because people needed it because no one was working and they're already super poor, like dirt floors poor. Like everybody sleeping in one room poor, like poor. So I was like, oh, okay. And so I threw some money in and went over there and we did like an assembly line. There were like 6 or 7 of us, and we got all the stuff, like beans and rice and pasta and spaghetti sauce and soap and salt and noodles and whatever. I can't remember all the stuff. And then we made like 250 bags, and then they took those to like people up the hill here. And then one time, we did that a couple times, and one time they took them like almost 2 hours away to this little pueblo up in the mountains. but that was happening, and I know a surf hotel near here, Puro Surf. Shout out, because they really hooked it up. Apparently, they provided a lot of that assistance to people nearby. So there was a little bit of that going on just from like people.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of that happening here too.
Wow.
Yeah, a number of groups. And I've been I volunteer as a driver, so a couple times a week I'll take meals out. But it's the one I'm doing now, it's restaurants that actually donate, as well as there's this World Central Kitchen. They operate, I guess, probably worldwide, but by the name, but they have little frozen meals. But that's along with actual restaurant food that restaurants donate. Or I would imagine they're compensated somehow, because there's, the whole thing is restaurants need our help right now. And then another organization called Southern Solidarity. I'm not sure where they source their food, but they do a lot of meal handouts for the homeless. And I think that's really ramped up under COVID. It's mostly aimed at old people who can't really get out for their own meals and stuff. But if you have the need, you can call and get on the list.
Wow, that's really cool. It's so weird. I've like kind of, I guess my perception of the rest of the world is a little bit warped, having lived here for a little while, because it's kind of like when you live in New York, you think that there's like New Jersey and nowhere else, you know? Mm-hmm. And so I kind of sometimes feel like El Salvador is the only place that has problems or hungry people, which apparently is not the case.
No, it's not. What are you teaching, English or anything? Like any sort
Today?
What are you teaching? Like,
oh yeah, I'm teaching English to people in China.
Okay, I wondered about your time schedules. It seemed a little
other side of the world.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Do you want to give that or anything a shout out? Maybe your Tennis Heads podcast. I listened to your recent one today. I was like, I should listen to Kirby's podcast before having him on my podcast. That's what the people do.
Thank you. Yeah. So just be honest with me. How much of it did you listen to?
I'll be honest with you. I had it on while I was Uber driving. So I got a rider who was a high schooler who has the same birthday as me. So we started chatting.
Wow. Okay.
And so I missed a lot of it that way. I don't know that much about tennis, so it was kind of shocking.
Neither do I.
You know what I really liked, though, and what stuck with me? I liked that you shouted out the moms at the end. I liked the mom shout out. Had
to happen.
Yeah, and I thought, definitely a factoid that resonated. It's like, that is really cool. Good for them. And the woman who dated the rock star, I was like, ooh, I wonder what rock star that is.
It was Red Foo.
Oh, I don't know.
Is that the right name? Red Foo?
I don't know.
He was part of a... What? You don't know that guy? I don't know. He was part of a band that I don't know.
David Grohl of the Foo Fighters?
No, it was like his name was like Red... I don't know. I want to look it up, but I won't.
Right.
Yeah, she had some party years back in the day.
Gotcha.
Victoria Azarenka. But yeah, 3 moms for the first time ever in the quarterfinals of a major. This just happened. It's like totally amazing. And one of the moms made the final, Victoria Azarenka.
Okay.
So,
and then who won?
Naomi Osaka.
Oh, right. And she wore all the masks. That's right.
Yes, she
right.
did. She also, when the Milwaukee Bucks said, okay, we're not playing, and then the rest of the NBA said, yeah, we're not playing, Naomi Osaka said, I'm not playing. Like, she was basically ready to default her semifinal match of the big tournament. It wasn't the U.S. Open, but it's a big tournament. And then tennis was really cool about it. Tennis said, okay, then nobody's playing, and we'll hold this off for like a couple of days. So I think nobody played for like a day or two because she did that.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Tennis activism.
Yeah, and no one else is doing it, by the way. Well, there's a couple of other black players who have made some posts and stuff, but even Serena and Venus haven't been that vocal. They certainly aren't like wearing masks with like Breonna Taylor's name on it, when they come out to the court. So Naomi Osaka is like, I just she has all of my respect. Like, she is an incredibly a mature 22.
Oh wow, she's only 22. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Got a lot of years ahead of her. That's exciting.
Yeah.
Someone to keep us on our toes in the years to come.
So the other question I wanted to ask you about the podcast is, did you subscribe? Yes, I did. I subscribed.
Okay, but you should know that I don't think that there's a single podcast I subscribe to, so you'll be...
That's crazy. Why wouldn't? There's so many good podcasts.
I know. Well, yeah, it's like I said, it's never been something, and I realized that I love NPR weekend programming, which is basically just podcast after podcast that I don't have to like track down. And especially when I'm Uber driving, it's really just like delightful. I love a Saturday, just like driving around. Wait, don't tell me. Right into Ask Me Another. Music Inside Out. Well, great. Thank you so much again for...
Yeah, the podcast is called Tennis Heads.
Oh, right, yeah.
Two words, Tennis Heads, HEADZ. And then you have to search for it, because if you just search for tennis, it won't come up yet.
But if you search for it as one word, it will come up, because I made that mistake and found it.
Oh, really? So you have to search for it with one word?
No, you don't have to, but you can.
Okay. So yeah, another thing you can do is you can give our podcast a review on iTunes, and that boosts the stuff. And that's something that you should ask your listeners to do too, because it really increases your visibility.
Okay, yeah.
And you should ask them at the beginning too. I've learned this trick recently too. Like, so for some really good podcasts, like, yeah.
Oh yeah, I did mean to specifically ask you for podcasting tips at the end.
That's all I have.
Which are okay. Well, good. It happened organically, as they say. Well, great. I am so happy to have the ball rolling, and I'm really happy that we had all the delays that we had, because that's when I upgraded my mic, and like I said, I'm basically a sound engineer now after watching 3 YouTube videos.
Wow, that's fantastic.
That's all it takes to get expertise these days, right? 3 YouTube videos.
Well, your years of video editing helps too.
Yeah. That. But like, sound was never any. Like, I still feel like I'm definitely faking all of what I do. I'm like, I guess it sounds different. Like, EQ, I guess. Move this one over.
I think a lot of it is you just have to play around.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
There was one where he was like showing the de-esser, and he's like, oh, and clearly thought that whatever he did, like one of the videos, of course, that I was watching, and maybe like its own sound quality wasn't good enough for me to hear something, but I was just
probably.
Oh, I felt like the worst student. I'm just like, I didn't hear it, man. I didn't hear it. Those S's sounded exactly the same to me. But yeah, it's going to be fun to have just a new project, and like also very interesting. The whole reason it started is I was like, I wonder what other people's COVID experiences were like, and I happen to know people in many different countries. So
it's a wonderful idea, especially if you know people in other countries, and it's also you're a good host. You know, it's fun talking to you. Yeah.
I'll cycle through all of my street photography too, my different street corners.
Oh yeah, you should give a shout out to your Instagram account, because your photography is amazing.
Oh, thank you. Again, I learned so much from you. Angie-mation, like a pun on animation, but with the name Angie, is my time-lapse and stop-motion one. And Ollie in America, like short for...
OLLIE.
OLLIE. Yeah, a lot of people hear ALI sometimes, but that's my dog. He's a Thai dog, and he has been in America since...
But you can't tell. He doesn't really have that much of an accent. So.
No. But whenever he doesn't listen to me, which is always, I'm just like, well, English isn't his first language.
Oh, man.
He gets away with a lot.
I know he does.
All right. Well, thanks again so much.
Yeah, thank you. We'll do it again in 2023.
Okay, you're on. I'll write in my Trapper Keeper. Bye.
Okay, bye.
Alrighty, well, if you've made it this far, thank you so much. I truly appreciate it. And just one more reminder, since this is apparently what people do at the end of their podcast, please like and subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes. It's funny because at the time of recording the outro of my first episode, these aren't actually published anywhere, but obviously if you're listening to it, it is. So yeah, wherever you're viewing or watching, otherwise consuming it, they tell me the ratings and reviews really matter. So anything helps. See you next time. Adios. Watching history